My name is Ethan Miles, and I turned 34 on a Wednesday. That morning, I ironed my best shirt. I had planned to leave work early, have dinner with my wife Rachel, maybe grab drinks with a few friends. I wasn't expecting balloons or cake, but I figured I'd get a couple of Slack messages. A happy birthday from someone on the dev team. Maybe even a joke from Marcus in QA, something like, happy level up day. It was just another work day, but it was mine. What I didn't expect was to be called into HR at 10:07 a.m. by someone I'd never spoken to before. "Can you bring your laptop with you?" she asked. Her voice was flat, almost rehearsed. The room smelled like printer toner and quiet panic. There was a laminated sheet on the wall about how to exit with dignity. A man from IT stood awkwardly near the window with a company-issued backpack, arms crossed, staring at the floor like this was the 50th time this week. "We appreciate your contributions," the HR rep said, barely lifting her eyes from the script. "But due to a restructuring initiative, your position is being eliminated, effective immediately." That was it. No mention of my birthday, no acknowledgement of the 3 years I had spent there. Just a manila envelope, a severance packet, and a suggestion to apply for unemployment. I didn't argue. I didn't ask for clarification. I nodded once, stood up, and left. I walked back to my desk in silence, pulled out a cardboard box from under the filing cabinet, and started packing my things. I had a dying desk plant named Fernie, 3 books I hadn't opened in months, and a USB fan shaped like a miniature jet engine. A few coworkers looked over and then quickly looked away. Nobody said anything. There was a cake in the break room. Chocolate, my favorite. It had my name on it. They still made me clean out my desk before I could have a slice. By 10:41 a.m., I was sitting in the driver's seat of my car in the parking garage, staring at the steering wheel with the box of my work life beside me. I considered calling Rachel, but what would I say? "Hey, honey, guess what? They gave me a severance and a slice of cake." Instead, I sat there for a while, in silence. I tried to figure out how I felt. Angry? No. Embarrassed? Maybe. Hollow, mostly. Like I'd been emptied out and filled with static. 3 years. 3 years of missed dinners, late-night deployments, covering for people who didn't know what they were doing, volunteering for every stretch project they needed help on. I was dependable. I was invisible. They let me go like I was just an outdated line item in a spreadsheet. And yet, I wasn't surprised. Not really. The company had been changing. The merger talks. The whispers of optimization. I just didn't think they'd cut someone who still had code in production running on 4 continents. But they did. What they didn't know, what nobody in that building knew, was that I hadn't wasted those late nights. 2 nights ago, I had finished something. Something that had been brewing for nearly a year. For the past 11 months, I'd been building a prototype in my spare time. Not in secret exactly. Rachel knew. My best friend Dylan, an old college roommate and back-end savant, helped with the infrastructure. But I never pitched it formally. I wasn't ready. Or maybe I was just afraid. It was called Mercury, an AI-powered scheduling assistant for people who hated calendars. Not just a smart planner. This thing learned how you worked. It adapted to your habits, your attention span, your natural rhythms. It didn't just help you block time. It told you when to stop. It reordered tasks based on energy levels and deadlines. It observed your behavior, understood your patterns, and quietly optimized your day. It was like a personal chief of staff in your pocket. We weren't trying to replace Google Calendar. We were trying to change the way busy professionals reclaimed their lives. I had shown it once, months ago, to a friend of a friend who worked at a small venture fund. He'd said it was interesting, but early. Told me to come back when I had traction. At the time, I'd shrugged it off. But now I had time. I had no job, no distractions, no more excuses. That night, instead of cake or cocktails, I sat at the kitchen table with a can of cold beer and my laptop. Rachel sat across from me, reading quietly, not asking questions, but keeping me company in the best possible way. I opened my inbox and pulled up the last email thread with that VC. Subject, Mercury, ready for liftoff. Body. You said to reach out when it was real. I'm ready. I hesitated for half a second, then hit send. At midnight, there was no reply. At 6:12 a.m., I woke to a notification. A new email. 2 words. Let's talk. That same day, I walked into a downtown coffee shop in the same shirt I wore when they fired me. By the time I walked out, I had a $10 million term sheet in my inbox. This is the story of how I got fired on my birthday and funded the next morning, and why losing that job was the best thing that ever happened to me. When I walked out of that coffee shop, I didn't smile. Not at first. I sat in my car and stared at the screen again, trying to process what just happened. The term sheet was real. $10 million in seed funding. A cap table with my name on it. A convertible note structured with reasonable terms, low dilution. An option pool large enough for a founding team I hadn't even fully built yet. And a clause giving me full operational control for at least the first 18 months. I read through it 3 times. Then I finally let myself feel it. Not excitement, not yet. Relief. I wasn't crazy. The nights I spent writing code on a secondhand laptop while Rachel slept in the next room weren't wasted. The skipped vacations, the canceled dinners, the guilt I carried for not being present enough. They'd all led to something. Mercury wasn't a hobby anymore. It was real. I pulled out my phone and called Dylan. "Check your email," I said. He groaned. "It's Saturday morning, man. I just sent you a term sheet." There was a pause. "From who?" "Hudson Point Ventures." More silence. Wait. That guy from the networking brunch? You said he ghosted you." "He didn't ghost, he watched." Then came the shout. Dude, 10 mil? Are you kidding me?" "I'm not." "What did you say?" "I said I'd think about it." "You're joking." "I'm not. I told him I needed to review it, make a few calls." "That's insane. We're broke." "We're not broke." "Bro, you got fired yesterday." I smiled. "Yeah, and today I have options." He started laughing. "Holy shit, I love this country." We agreed to meet that afternoon to go over the legal details. Dylan had a friend who was a startup attorney, someone who owed him a favor. We didn't want to be the guys who signed away our future because we were high on validation and cold brew. When I got home, Rachel was in the kitchen, barefoot, cooking scrambled eggs like it was any other Saturday. "Good meeting?" she asked. I held up my phone. "You want to see a number that made me forget I got laid off?" She raised an eyebrow, took the phone, and read the email. Her eyes widened. "You're not joking?" "I'm not." She set the phone down. "Do we need to move?" "Not yet." "Quit your job?" "I already did." We both laughed. Then we sat down at the table with eggs and toast and the weight of something new between us. Not fear. Not hope, exactly. Just the sense that life had just shifted beneath our feet. After breakfast, I pulled out a notebook and started writing down the names of everyone I needed to call. I'd made a short list over the past year. Engineers I trusted, designers who didn't flake, people who got things done, people who didn't just want equity, they wanted purpose. By Monday, I wanted a plan. Funding wasn't the finish line. It was the gunshot at the start of the race, and I had no intention of walking. We met Dylan's attorney friend in a sandwich shop in Midtown. Her name was Renee, and she read the term sheet like she was scanning for traps in a legal jungle. "You've got leverage now," she said, tapping the final clause. "They want in, so you can counter. Not to be greedy, just smart." She helped us draft a response, one that adjusted the vesting schedule slightly, expanded the option pool by 2%, and included a clause giving us first right of refusal in any follow-on round. We sent it that evening. By the next morning, we had a revised term sheet. Approved. Clean. No drama, no tricks. Just green light. That Monday, I filed the paperwork to incorporate Mercury Technologies, Inc. 3 days after getting fired, I was CEO of a funded company. I picked up a whiteboard from Office Depot, stuck it in my living room, and wrote a single phrase in red marker. Make every hour count. By Friday, we had a dev Slack channel, a Notion board with a roadmap, a waitlist of 432 beta users. The funny part? Most of them came from a tweet Dylan wrote at 2:17 a.m. that just said, "My best friend got fired on his birthday. Today he's got 10 mailers to fix calendars forever. Beta list open. Mercury is coming." It went viral. People weren't just interested, they were excited. Apparently, a lot of people hate their calendars. 1 week after getting laid off, I had something better than a job. I had momentum. And I had something else too, an email from my old boss. It read, "Hey Ethan, just heard you're doing something in AI scheduling. Funny timing. Corporate's been talking about a project like that internally. If you're open to consulting or licensing, let's chat. Happy to connect the dots." I stared at it for a long time. Then I archived it without replying. He hadn't remembered my birthday, but now, apparently, he remembered me. The first team meeting for Mercury happened in my apartment, around a dining table that doubled as a desk, with half-eaten Thai takeout and a cracked whiteboard that leaned against the wall like a tired coach. There were 4 of us. Me, Dylan, the back-end wizard. Priya, a UX designer I met during a hackathon 2 years ago who always wore noise-canceling headphones, even when she wasn't listening to anything. And Luis, a full-stack developer who used to work at the same company that fired me, until they let him go the quarter before. We sat there on a rainy Tuesday afternoon, laptops open, still a little stunned by how quickly this thing had become real. Dylan clicked a marker in his hand like it was a nervous tick. "Okay," he said. "We have $10 million, 4 people, and a working prototype. What's our biggest risk?" "Shipping something nobody wants," Priya said, not missing a beat. Luis nodded. "Or something people want but don't trust." "Or," I added, "something we don't finish because we get pulled in 20 directions." We were all right. That was the problem. Startups don't fail because of one big mistake. They die by 1,000 little cuts. A missed feature, a bad hire, a pivot too late, an early launch too soon. I didn't want to die by cuts. So we made a rule that day. Everything gets tested, internally, externally, emotionally. If a feature didn't solve a real problem, we killed it. If it confused even one user, we simplified it. And if we ever had to guess what our customer needed, we picked up the phone and asked. No guessing, no ego. Just data, decisions, and iteration. By the end of the week, we had a working onboarding flow and an email capture form that didn't crash. Not exactly world-changing, but a good start. We pushed it live. The first user signed up 12 minutes later. It was a guy named Darren from Austin who worked in logistics. His comment under the "Why did you sign up?" field said, "If this keeps me from rescheduling Zoom calls 5 times a day, I'll name my dog after you." The second user was a middle school teacher in Oregon. The third, a nurse from Boston. They weren't tech bros. They weren't VC scouts. They were normal people who were drowning in chaos and wanted to breathe. We started calling them our Life Raft group. By day 10, we had 1,000 people on the waitlist. By day 12, we had our first hate email. A guy named Carl said we were another Silicon Valley scam trying to replace humans with robots. We read it out loud, debated replying, then decided not to. But we printed it and taped it to the fridge. A little humility never hurt anyone. That same week, the first major bug appeared. A sync issue caused Mercury to send double reminders for the same meeting. Some users got pinged 3 times an hour, including one woman who was in the middle of a therapy session when it happened. She emailed us. She was polite but clearly frustrated. I replied within 5 minutes, apologized, fixed the bug that night, and sent her a handwritten note with a $50 Amazon card. 2 days later, she tweeted, "I had a problem with Mercury, but they fixed it fast and treated me like a human being. That matters." That tweet got 11,000 likes. Sometimes your best marketing isn't a feature. It's an apology done right. In the background, the money was still sitting in the account. $10 million looks strange when it's digital. No bricks of cash, no vault. Just a number on a screen that makes people take your calls faster. VCs who didn't respond to my emails 6 months ago were now DMing me at 2 a.m. Product managers I'd never met before were sending resumes with links to slide decks about scalable vision strategies. It was flattering and exhausting. We weren't ready to hire more people yet, not until the foundation was solid. So I started building something else, a culture document. Not the kind you print and forget, a living doc, real values. It started with 3 rules. We don't do meetings unless they have a purpose and an ending. Feedback is a gift, but sarcasm is not. If you're burned out, speak up. Mercury doesn't work if its team is broken. Simple, clear, hours. Late one night, I was the last one awake, looking at the roadmap on the whiteboard. I saw all the red scribbles and arrows and sticky notes. I saw the stress, the excitement, the doubt. And then I realized something. Every person building Mercury had been let go from somewhere else. We were the people picked last. The ones they said were redundant. The ones who didn't scale. And yet here we were, building something that could outlast the companies that cast us off. We were building with broken pieces and making something whole. By the end of month 1, we were moving fast. Too fast, maybe. We had our first 2,000 users signed up. Beta invitations were rolling out. The press hadn't found us yet, but industry people were starting to whisper. Dylan built an internal dashboard that tracked usage metrics in real time. I refreshed it every hour like it was a newborn's heartbeat monitor. And then came the email that would flip our whole roadmap upside down. Subject line: interested in a quick demo next week? It was from Skyline Ventures, a growth stage fund based in New York, known for backing 3 unicorns in the past 5 years. Known for cutting seven-figure checks in 5-minute meetings. Known for never sending polite emails unless they were dead serious. They'd seen Mercury through a connection, someone we hadn't even pitched yet. I reread the email 5 times. I didn't tell the team right away. Not because I didn't trust them, but because I didn't want to jinx it. We were still fragile, still held together by coffee and hope, but I knew this was a shot we couldn't afford to miss. I replied with a simple, "Yes, we'd love to." Then panic set in. Our current build was functional, but not polished. The onboarding still had clunky steps. The UI wasn't optimized for mobile, and the calendar integration sometimes glitched if users had multiple time zones. None of it was catastrophic, but none of it screamed ready to scale to 100,000 users either. We had 6 days to fix it. 6 days to turn a scrappy prototype into something that looked like it belonged in a boardroom. Dylan called it Demo Week. Luis called it wartime. Priya just put on her headphones and stopped speaking to anyone for 3 days. We didn't sleep much. Dylan rewrote the sync logic from scratch. Luis created an isolated demo environment that couldn't crash, even if Mercury's core servers caught fire. Priya stayed up until 3 a.m., rebuilding the entire front-end experience to be emotionally intuitive. Her words, not mine. Me? I wrote scripts, designed slides, rehearsed a live walkthrough over and over again until I could do it blindfolded. I shaved. I bought a blazer that didn't wrinkle. I even practiced smiling like I wasn't on the verge of blacking out. We were ready, or so we thought. The demo day came. It was scheduled for 10:30 a.m. EST, which meant 7:30 our time. I woke up at 5, sat in the kitchen with a bowl of cereal I didn't touch, and just stared at the clock. At 7:15, we all logged in, cameras on, microphones tested, backgrounds blurred. At 7:29, the Zoom room filled. 3 partners, 1 associate, all from Skyline, all dressed like they were born with equity in Patagonia. I did the intro, calm, confident, practiced. Then I clicked share screen, and nothing happened. The app froze. My cursor moved, but the screen didn't. Then my laptop fan kicked into overdrive like it was trying to lift off. The memory monitor spiked. Everything locked. I felt heat rise in my chest. My heart thudded in my ears. I tried to buy time. Give me 1 sec. Looks like my screen share is stalling. Must be a local memory issue. Dylan messaged me in Slack. Switch to backup laptop. I'm launching the fallback server. Luis wrote, "Want me to jump in?" I nodded and said aloud, "Actually, while I fix this, Luis can give a quick look into what we've built technically." Luis took over like a pro. Walked them through the stack. Highlighted our adaptive scheduling logic. Framed the technical foundation like it was a carefully plotted architectural marvel. By the time he finished, I'd rebooted and was ready again. I resumed the demo. It went smoothly after that. I guided them through user flows, smart suggestions, energy-level integrations. I kept it short, focused. When it ended, the lead partner said, "This is one of the few demos we've seen where the glitch made you more interesting." I laughed, but I wanted to cry. They asked for a follow-up. Not a rejection, not a soft no, a follow-up. After the call ended, we sat in silence on Zoom for a few seconds. Then Dylan raised his coffee mug and said, "We didn't die." Luis added, "We might have even won." Priya just gave a tired thumbs up and fell back into her chair. That night, we ordered pizza and sat in my living room, not working, not talking strategy, just being people again. I looked around at the team. We were exhausted, but we were still standing, and somehow that mattered more than the follow-up. A week after the demo with Skyline, we still hadn't heard back. We told ourselves that was normal, that firms like that always took their time, that silence meant deliberation, not disinterest. But even optimism has a shelf life. On day 5, Dylan said, "They're not calling back." Priya said, "Maybe they're just waiting for Q4 to clear." Luis said nothing. He just worked harder. I tried to stay calm, but in the quiet moments, early mornings, late nights, I could feel it creeping in. Imposter syndrome. The thing no founder talks about until it's behind them. The little voice that says, maybe they were right to fire you. Maybe you're just lucky. Maybe this isn't sustainable. Maybe this is where the story ends. But then something else happened. Something bigger than an email. We got a message through our website from a school district in Indiana. They wanted to test Mercury, not as a startup toy, but as a tool to help 47 teachers plan their week and still get home in time to see their kids. It wasn't sexy, it wasn't a Fortune 500, it was real. We scheduled the call. It was messy. The superintendent had bad Wi-Fi. One teacher dialed in from her phone while supervising detention. But they showed up. They asked smart questions. They were tired, overworked, and honest. "We don't care about AI buzzwords," one teacher said. "We just want to stop rescheduling parent conferences 4 times a week." We rolled out a stripped-down beta the next day. Within 72 hours, 19 of those teachers were actively using Mercury. Within a week, 3 of them had emailed us, saying they finally had evenings again. That changed everything. We stopped waiting for Skyline. We started building for people. Meanwhile, word started spreading in places we never expected. A TikTok therapist mentioned Mercury in a live stream. A YouTuber with 500,000 followers made a video titled, "This calendar tool saved my ADHD brain." An executive assistant forum debated whether we were the real deal or another overhyped startup. That thread had 800 comments in a day. We hadn't run a single ad, but the right people were finding us. We went from 2,000 users to 8,500 in 3 weeks, and our support inbox exploded. It wasn't complaints, it was stories. People telling us they were less anxious, that they finally felt in control, that Mercury wasn't fixing their life, but it was giving them space to fix it themselves. We printed out the best ones and taped them to the office wall. Some people put up stock photos or motivational quotes. We put up emails that started with, "I didn't think anything could help, but..." Then, out of nowhere, Skyline replied, not a "sorry for the delay," not a "let's schedule a follow-up." It was a forwarded email chain with the subject line, "Another team beat us to it." They'd passed. No explanation. Just a reminder that no matter how good your demo, sometimes people just move on. We stared at it in silence. Luis muttered, "Cowards." Priya said, "Their loss." Dylan said nothing for a full minute, then stood up, walked to the whiteboard, and wrote in bold capital letters, "We don't need permission to build." We left it there. The next few days were a blur. We onboarded our first paying users, 20 small teams from nonprofits, healthcare clinics, and one surprising law firm in Minnesota that specialized in family court cases. Revenue was still small, but morale? It was through the roof. We weren't chasing investors anymore. We were chasing outcomes, helping people organize their lives so they could live them again. Every night someone stayed late. Not because I asked, not because of pressure, because they cared. Because somewhere in Indiana or Oregon or New York, someone was opening their phone and feeling just a little less overwhelmed thanks to us. That feeling? You can't raise it. You can't buy it. You earn it. One feature, one bug fix, one user at a time. We were deep into a sprint. Backlog full, Slack a mess, coffee budget rising when I got the email. It came from an address I didn't recognize. The domain was generic, a northbridgegroup.com. I almost deleted it. Subject line, Mercury scheduling tool, institutional interest. I clicked anyway. "Hi, Ethan. I'm part of the strategic partnerships team at Northbridge Group. We've been following Mercury's development quietly over the last few weeks. Would love to connect. Your traction and user sentiment caught our attention. We're not a VC firm. We're something else. Let me know if you're open to a conversation." Something else? I forwarded it to Dylan, who replied instantly, "You Googled them yet?" I did. Northbridge Group wasn't a household name, but they had equity positions in 5 enterprise SaaS platforms I knew, and had quietly acquired 3 more in the past decade. They weren't chasing unicorns. They were building war horses. Sustainable, boring, profitable products that kept running while everyone else chased headlines. We agreed to take the meeting. Worst case, we'd get some feedback. Best case, maybe they'd offer a partnership that kept us in control but helped us grow. The call happened 2 days later. Simple Zoom room. 2 people, Julia, the partnerships lead, and Marcus, a product strategist who'd apparently tested Mercury himself under a fake name. "Ethan," Julia said, smiling, "we think what you're building is deeply unsexy, and that's why it's brilliant." I laughed. "Best compliment I've gotten all month," Marcus chimed in. "You didn't overpromise, you didn't oversell, and your users seem almost loyal. That's rare. They didn't ask for pitch decks. They didn't want projections. They wanted to know about our retention strategy, infrastructure plans, and why we thought Mercury was better than letting users just deal with chaos." I told them the truth. Because we don't build around productivity. We build around peace. That got their attention. By the end of the call, Julia said something that stuck with me. "We're not asking for your cap table. We're not asking for your equity. We're asking where we can be useful." That was a first. The offer came a week later. Not an investment, an alliance. They'd integrate Mercury into two of their B2B platforms as the built-in scheduling layer. We'd stay independent, own the IP, and get a rev share based on enterprise adoption. It wouldn't make us rich overnight, but it would keep us alive, with real revenue, real users, real scale. We said yes, and that yes changed everything. Within 2 months, Mercury was being used by over 30,000 people, not just freelancers or startup folks, nurses, teachers, lawyers, librarians, people who never had assistants, people who never had time. Now they had Mercury. Our revenue tripled. Our churn dropped to single digits. People weren't just trying us, they were staying. And then one night, around midnight, I got another email. This one was from Skyline. Yes, that Skyline. It read, "Hey Ethan, heard about the Northbridge deal. Congrats. Would love to reconnect if there's room to talk follow-on capital." I read it, I smiled, and I didn't reply. Because some doors only open once. And some doors? You learn to close yourself. 6 months after I got fired, I was back in the same building. Different floor, different purpose. Northbridge was hosting a private event for product partners in San Francisco, and they'd asked me to speak. The theme was systems that last. I almost said no. I hate public speaking, always have. My hands shake, my throat dries up, but Julia convinced me. "You don't have to be impressive," she said. "Just be honest." So I stood on a small stage in front of 50 executives in tailored suits and sleek glasses and told them how I got fired on my birthday. I told them about the cake I didn't get to eat, the startup I almost didn't build, the $10 million that felt like fake money until it became a payroll that fed families. And I told them something else. We didn't set out to build a billion-dollar company. We set out to build something that helped people feel like their time belonged to them again. Turns out, that's all most people want. When I stepped off stage, people clapped. I don't remember how long. I just remember the guy from a major HR software platform leaning in and saying, "We need you in our product next quarter." That's how it kept going. Not hype, not luck, just one solved problem at a time. Back at the office, Mercury had grown from 4 people in an apartment to 17 people in a rented co-working space that used to be a yoga studio. We still had the whiteboard with Dylan's handwriting. "We don't need permission to build." That stayed. So did the handwritten notes we kept sending to our users, each one signed by someone on the team. We hired a support rep named Jen, who had been one of our early beta testers. She answered tickets like she was helping family. One day she told me, "I've never worked at a place that thanks users instead of tolerating them." I told her, "We're not building for metrics. We're building for humans." She smiled and said, "That's rare." It is. But it shouldn't be. One night I came home late. Rachel was on the couch, laptop open, looking at early childhood development forms for her thesis. She asked, "How's Mercury?" I said, "Tired, growing, real." She laughed. "You sound like a dad." I sat next to her. "It kind of feels like that." She paused. "You know, I never asked what you would have done if Mercury didn't work." I thought about it for a moment. "I don't know," I said. "Maybe I'd have kept applying to other jobs, or maybe I would have waited for someone else to give me permission to try again." She nodded, then leaned over and kissed my cheek. "You're not waiting anymore." A few weeks later, I got a LinkedIn message from my old boss, the one who fired me. It said, "Hey Ethan, not sure if you remember me? Would love to catch up sometime. Maybe pick your brain about AI integrations." I stared at the message. Then I archived it. Not out of spite, just peace. Because I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't proving anything. I wasn't chasing revenge. I had already arrived,